The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Friday. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and you. Hope you're doing all right. Get you into the weekend. Can stream the show as always, and you're invited to do that. Hail Varsity YouTube channel, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. Just some programming notes. If you're listening to us in Lincoln on KFOR, Jeff Moats may break in with severe weather updates. He's been doing that all afternoon. Bless his soul. So that will be first and foremost for you. If you're listening to us, Kearney, Hastings, Grand Island, Columbus, or Omaha, you'll still get us. That's all good. I know Nebraska baseball takes to the airways on 590. That happens around 5:30. So we'll hope you catch up with us. And if you're in some inclement weather, lots of different colors swirling around different counties in the state, stay safe, stay healthy. Numbers to get in today at 489-1240. 489-1240. Can email the show, chris@hailvarsity.com. Give us a follow on Twitter at Schmidt_radio or at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel.
I'll tell you what, Schmidt, on a day like today, this is not good advice by any means, don't listen to me, but it's one of those Midwestern days where you feel like pulling out the old radio set and going and setting up a lawn chair on your roof and watching the storm rolling, and then getting off the roof at an appropriate time whenever you realize, you know what, the people on the radio are telling me that things could be getting unsafe here in a second. You'll get off the roof, but it's one of those days where, like, the storm forms quickly, you got the beautiful clouds off in the distance, and you just want to sit on your roof with your radio set and maybe a beer and watch the storm rolling. Feels like one of those days.
Yeah, I won't lie to you. I mean, our patio is a good observation point. When a twister went through the west part of Lincoln, kind of south and southwest of the West A area. I mean, I was watching from afar, and then my propane finished up before the steak did. So I had to get inside and finish the steak, and then we went downstairs, appropriately so.
And that's the important part of that advice. Whenever
you finish the steak.
Well, I was gonna say, whenever things start getting a little hairy, you make sure you find yourself in a safer spot than the roof of your place, or as you said, the patio. But that's just a Midwestern tradition like no other.
It's interesting. There's too many videos that go, hey, watch this, and then the door gets blown off, and then your trailer flies 70 feet through the air. So on the show today, Jacob Padilla is going to be with us. We'll talk some recruiting and football and some hoops with Jacob as he's gearing up for another weekend of high school summer basketball. Jacob with us from Hail Varsity in 15 minutes. In hour two, the pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports, the professor, Bill Doleman, joins us at 5:05. Brady Oltmans with Hail Varsity. Big recruiting thoughts from Brady. And you have a Rezac headed off to Notre Dame. That's pretty awesome for Teddy. Hell of a good football player. The Irish got a good one. Another talent from Westside. And Teddy is off to the Irish, so we'll get Brady's take on that. And then get your weekend gambling fix with the NHL and NBA. Danny Burke, Pride of Chicago, NBC. I almost said NBC Sports. Someday with Danny, yes. But right now, VSiN Sports Network for Danny Burke. VSiN Sports Network, of course, Brent Musburger's network. So Danny will join us in about an hour and a half. You can get involved with us. Just a reminder here in Lincoln, Lancaster County, tornado watch till 9 p.m. There are different counties off to the west that have been dealing with severe thunderstorm warnings as we speak. So some of the topics we'll hit on today. Good story by Brandon Marcello from 24/7 Sports. He was part of that podcast a couple weeks ago with Coach Rule, and a national analyst taking time to write the story and ask the questions about the Nebraska blueprint, specifically the rebuilding of the Nebraska blueprint. We'll get there. Some thoughts as well with the Big Ten and what you would like to see, your wish list here, schedule-wise, for the conference. And it's interesting, Brett McMurphy reporting that, look, the Big Ten may punt its requirement to play another Power 5 school because you've got USC and UCLA joining the party here in short order. So the schedule, your in-conference schedule, presumably without divisions, could get real hairy, who's who. But I still hope that there's an opportunity for Nebraska to keep playing some of the non-conference teams that we love to play. If you're a Nebraska football fan, you love the fact you've got a home and home with Colorado. Let's keep signing that thing up. It's fun. It's fun to hate again, isn't it? Or at least strongly dislike. Oklahoma's on the schedule in the near future. Tennessee's on the schedule in the near future. So's Arizona. Don't care. But, hey, Tucson would be fun. So we'll get there in a little bit. NFL is out with their over-unders. The schedule release party last night. How good were the Tennessee Titans last night on Twitter, on social media? They went through every team and showed a logo of said team to the people. Is it Broad Street?
Broadway.
Yeah, makes sense. As you can tell, I have not been to Nashville since I was 8, and I did not make my way to Broadway when I was 8. Would have tried. But you had just normal street goers, men on the street interviews going on, and they were asking folks that were in Nashville who the Titans were set to play, and you had some hilarity ensue with the answers based on the logos. I just can't get where you get Cowboys for the Colts with the horseshoe logo. Doesn't the world know the star
It's the colors.
Is Dallas?
It's the colors. People saw the colors and they saw something horse.
But there's no silver with the Colts.
These are amateur fans.
These are not even casual sports fans.
No, not at all.
They're there to party and have a good time. A lot of them are either on vacation trying to beat their liver up, or it's a bachelorette party. I mean, that's who they hit. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty fun.
Well, the Titans was really good, but do you see what the Chargers social media team did? They came out, it was their second straight year turning their schedule into an anime, which is just, a kind of over-the-top animated type series. And the funniest part about it was, anytime they played the Chiefs and they announced that, it featured a scene from Chiefsaholic on the Run. So the first scene whenever they played the Chiefs was him ripping off the ankle bracelet, and then it was him on the run from the police the next time when they were playing the Chiefs. They killed all the division opponents, so as a Broncos fan, that was rough too. For the Colts, though, the Colts was funnier because, sorry, not the Colts, the Raiders, excuse me.
Not the Cowboys.
No. Yeah. Shows how much a sports fan has. Anyway, it was them playing the slot machines in Vegas, and what it comes out is it's 3 Garoppolos in a row, and you're the big winner, and then they come back to it for the second time they play the Raiders, and it's Garoppolo, and then you get the cash out voucher from the slot machine. It was negative $72 million.
Wow.
And then they had
That's so good.
Oh, just wait. They had a QR code on there on the thing, and some people were like, I wonder what this QR code is. So they scanned the QR code from the video of that cash out voucher, took you to Chargers.com with 2 links. One was Chargers link, which was then buy tickets for the Chargers Raiders game. If you're a Raiders fan, you're supposed to click the other link. The other link redirected you to a Google search entitled How to Get a Job.
Oh, that's so good.
All the Raiders fans that clicked on that now know how to get a job.
I
Shout out to the Raiders fans.
I love the next level tech here. So let's start off here with the 24/7 sports story. In Nebraska's new rule is what it's titled here. Huskers have a plan to return to the college football land of contenders. Listen, that's kind of been a storyline this week, Nebraska being a contender again. And every year, they have had the talent to be a contender. Nebraska's not necessarily had the coaching or the oversight to be a contender. And I think you have all of those forces coming together. And you have a guy that is pretty meticulous. The details matter. The details matter squared or more in the Big Ten because of how good staffs and coaches are. And really good sit down by Brandon Marcello. And he was talking with Trev Alberts 5 months ago. And it's stuff that Trev has said before, but it gets reiterated and hits home again. And Trev was like, look, when he's talking with this national reporter for 24/7, this hiring of Rule is a bookmark moment for the program. First, do you believe that? Do you believe it's now or never? Because that was uttered with Frost. And I kind of thought that with Frost. And you talk to some of the former coaches we do, it's easy to say, well, this is one of your own. This is a guy who lived it and gets it and won it, and bring him back in, and it's going to be good. This is not going to turn into 2 hours of pinata time on Scott. I'm just saying we've been here before with the bookmark moment. Nebraska's had lots of bookmark moments. Well, this is the next move. This is the better move. This is the fix. And it's been wrong. It's been wrong, and it's not been a long, agonizing miss. It's been pretty swift with changes where some guys have gotten 5 years, some guys have gotten 4 years, some guys have gotten 3 years. And it ain't working. You're moving on to the next. You hit reset. Well, Trev's thoughts here, look, you have a choice here if we're Nebraska football. Get back to being Nebraska football, or you don't want to know what the alternative is. And the alternative is something Nebraska is fighting probably with that 17 to 25-year-old demographic, and that is relevancy. On the bigger scale, they're fighting with it in the world of college football, not even being bowl eligible, and everyone gets a prize here and gets to go bowling, even if it's Detroit on December 19th. You still get to go play in a bowl game. Nebraska's not earned that. So with the relevancy discussion point, Nebraska hasn't quite lost national attention because thousands of people still, hundreds of thousands, millions of people still tune in. The fan base is still in a lot of places around the country, and Nebraska's still their worth right now is still that red end. There's still a helmet game. So the helmet games haven't been super fun or competitive if you're a Nebraska fan, but at least you're on. At least you're on in prime time. That's what you've brought to the party for the Big Ten. Well, you lose the nation's attention the more you go bowlless. You lose the attention of the young fan base. That kind of came back. Just case in point with my own family, where Junior is 16 now, but I go back to the 2021 season. And it was more normal, obviously, than the COVID 2020 season, which was just all sorts of weird. But he wanted to and dirtied his way into a lot of games with his friends. Hey, do you want to go see Nebraska? Sure, why not? And I think what helped capture his attention and some of his buddies' attention was a guy and a dynamic player like an Adrian Martinez. You could gravitate towards that and go, wow, wasn't always perfect, but he was super fun to watch. So Nebraska hasn't been short on guys like that. They've had the Stanley Morgans. They've had the Amir Abdullahs. They've had guys like Sue, and I know we're getting back into history here, but those are flashbulb type guys you want on your team and your program because they win ball games first and foremost for you, but they also grab the attention of that young fan base. But that's been drifting away. Nebraska will see what they do with some of the stars. Now, collectively, you don't have to have a star, but you can go find your way to 6 wins. So the history is well documented. Elijah, this sentence in this story wowed me. Guys that are and gals that are entering into Nebraska football, you're graduating in 2 weeks from high school. You're going off to Nebraska, whether you're in state or you're out of state. They have seen only 10 winning seasons in their lifetime. They've seen 8 losing seasons. There's your 18 years. I am 45 years old, and I have seen 35. I I've seen 38 winning seasons of football. And I put it like this: someone going off to college, you're just a year out of college, and that just blows me away. Well, guys and gals that are going to be a freshman, go rush somewhere or get locked in with the business school, or God love you, become a broadcast major. You've seen 10. You're still over 50%, but man, that is sobering.
Well, the thing is of those 10, 9 were before they graduated 5th grade.
Yeah, I know. You're still trying to find the bandwagon to jump on.
So among among those 9 seasons that you got to see before 5th grade, you remember what? Maybe 2 of those, 3 of those. If you're a dedicated college football fan as an elementary school student, Nebraska is synonymous.
And
with,
you've grown up hating Wisconsin and Melvin Gordon.
Among the younger generation, Nebraska is synonymous with losing.
Yeah, that's what you know. Or man, they're bad. They've looked bad. They're not. I don't think they're bad now, but they've looked bad in a lot of moments, in big games or to teams that you hear the announcers say, "Well, Nebraska should be drubbing this team." You look at close losses to kind of piggyback onto that 10 winning seasons in 18 years. Nebraska's played in 37 one-score games. Nebraska didn't have any of those when I was growing up.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We say hi to Jacob Padilla from HailVarsity.com and magazine at Jacob Padilla _. Jacob, thanks for giving us a couple of minutes. How's the weather up there in Omaha for you?
Hasn't hit us yet, fortunately, but I'm about to hop up in the interstate and head down to Lincoln, so I'll probably be driving right through whatever it is.
Well, pull a Lieutenant Dan and just mow right through it, and be safe, my friend. A lot to get to. I want to start off with a little high school football real quick, and I know you spend a lot of time on the hardwood, but you also keep your eyes and ears on Nebraska football and do a great job with that. Your take on Nebraska and their ability to continue to offer in-state, but you don't always get the in-state kids. And I'm talking, of course, about Teddy Rezac from Westside, really great, talented player, making his declaration to Notre Dame. What's your reaction?
Not surprised, especially, kind of seemed like a situation where Notre Dame offered everything he was looking for. So once that offer came from them, he's like, all right, I'm good here. Nebraska obviously tried to hop in a little bit late here. And we've seen that, he's the 9th, I think, offer in the class in state for them. So it's not like they're ignoring in-state or whatever. It's just he was one that they hadn't got around to jumping on early quite yet, to the same degree that they did some of the other guys. And I don't know how much it would have mattered. Just everything on and off the field that Notre Dame provides seemed like a good fit for what he was looking for.
Are you surprised that he didn't wait for a new TV media rights deal from Notre Dame to make this decision?
Or the declaration of Adidas versus Under Armour?
Yeah, a lot of factors in play there, but I think he talked with our Hurrdat's Mike Sauter, mentioned that it's just ready to go on the field and wanted to make sure he grabbed his spot in the class when he felt it was right. And apparently he felt it was right almost as soon as he got the offer.
Jacob Padilla is with us, HailVarsity.com and magazine at Jacob Padilla _. Jacob, we had a chance to hear from Danny Nee yesterday. He was on with our colleagues, Bill Hooks and Will Wilson, and really a fun, pretty long-form interview. But Danny talked about what was a difference for those Nebraska teams. He had NBA guys. He knew it. And he's like, I got to go get talent. But 2, they were pretty experienced teams. They would always redshirt guys like Chubbuck, guys like Pietkowski, redshirted. Strick, I think, played as a true freshman, as did Boone. I think Mikey Moore and Vincent Hamilton, those guys may have redshirted. But the point is Nebraska was an older, experienced, established team with a good backup. It was well done during those NCAA tournament teams. Can Nebraska stay old and Fred and company do that in 2023? I know they've done it a bit through the portal, but is that more of a non-negotiable now? Does Nebraska want to go after the experienced folks that may be in the portal and obviously groom and develop guys they get out of high school?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the way you have to approach it. The portal is a great way to get old and stay old. If you can develop young players as part of your core that grow into old players in your program and stick around, even better. Like, that's how you have a chance to build out a full good roster with some continuity. Mm-hmm. So that's still a priority, but year to year, you've got this avenue open to you. You've got to take advantage of it. And what's interesting too is we're seeing them. I mean, the COVID year is part of this, and we're nearing the end of that. It only applies for everybody that played in the 2021 season. So we're getting close to a lot of those guys aging out of college, and it'll kind of go back to normal where you get your 4 years plus a red shirt and that's it. But for the time being, you've got a lot of guys that, like some of these transfers they brought in, they've got 2 more years of eligibility left. So they're upperclassmen, but they're not one and done either. Alec obviously is using his 5th year here, just like Sam Griesel did last year. But you've got Aaron Eulis, who has 2 years of eligibility left. You've got Rink Mass, who has 2 years of eligibility left. Same for Bryce Williams. So you're bringing in these older players that have experience and have played at the college level, but that aren't necessarily guaranteed one and done. So you've got a chance to keep these guys around for a couple years to build that continuity and to stay old as you develop young guys like Ramel Lloyd Jr. And some of the other guys they have in the program.
But Jacob, in an ideal world, do you think that Nebraska gets 2 years of use out of all of those guys, knowing the fact, as you laid out, that some of these guys could be one and done? They could have a good enough year, and if Nebraska is good enough, they could be going off and testing the waters of professional ball next year. Is that something you think Fred would be worried about, or would that be an ideal situation for him if a guy with 2 years of eligibility only ends up playing 1 because he goes off to the NBA?
Yeah, with these guys that have that COVID year, I don't know that you can ever assume that they're just going to take it. That'll always be a decision at the end of the year for all these guys. But all you can do is go into it and give them a good experience. Hopefully you guys can win together and give them a reason to come back. I don't know any of these guys are going to be jumping to the NBA after this next season. So I think they feel good about their chance. Like, if these guys come in and succeed, I think they'll feel like they'll be able to get them back for another year.
Jacob, a thought, an article and story you published on HailVarsity.com. Get the subscription. Quick shout out there, HailVarsity.com/offer. Get the digital, get the print, get the yearbook. You'll be a happy Husker fan by doing so. You're padding the stats, asks the question, and you dive into it. Did Nebraska miss on high major talent when it came to in-state recruiting? Let's go there for a moment. And you're around this all the time. Not only are you covering the team, but you've got an eye on, kind of what Creighton's doing. And, oh, yeah, by the way, you're coaching during the summer, so you see high school talent. I think you know better than a lot of folks just what's there, and you see major basketball being played in the Big East and in the Big Ten. Coach has got to be able to be sure it can translate from Omaha, from Lincoln, from Grand Island, from wherever. And I don't know that that's an easy call. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it isn't.
And sometimes guys aren't that coming out of high school and they become that. And that was kind of the thrust of the column there is, I don't know that any, so they're focused on 5 guys in particular, in-state prospects that started at mid-majors that transferred up to a high major either last year or this year. And Baylor Shireman and Sam Griesel were the 2 last year, obviously, one at Creighton, one in Nebraska. And then this year, you've got John Tonje going to Missouri. You have Josiah Alec coming to Nebraska now after stops at 2 different mid-majors. And you got Latrell Reitzel Jr. going from Cal State Fullerton to Alabama. So, there's fans wonder, well, we should have just offered these guys out of high school. And I don't think that any of them would have become the player they have become taking a different path, going to a high major. Maybe you struggle to get on the court early in your career. You don't get quite the same level of freedom that you get playing at a mid or low major conference where you get to play early more, you get to experiment. The coaches, like Sam Griesel, like I don't know that he plays right away as a true freshman, and two, if he does like say he came to Nebraska, do the coaches there envision him as a point guard and switch him to that position midway through his career, which kind of unlocked things for him. Obviously made a leap junior, and then senior year was the first time he really looked like, okay, this is the guy that can play at the high major level. You come straight out of Nebraska, does he make it 4 years to grow into that player? I don't know. And I think you could say that's the same for kind of all these guys, where the path they did take allowed them to develop into a high major caliber player. And we still have yet to see these last three guys, Tanjay, Reitzel, and Alec, how they perform at the high major level. Alec went from the Summit League to the Mountain West, and he started every game for a really good team, but he was a double-digit scorer at Kansas City his second and third year there, and dropped down to like 8 and 7, where his average is 8.4, 7.3. More of a hustle guy, not really as much of an offensive option. I mean, he had some trigger-happy guards in the backcourt, so he didn't get as many options, or opportunities. But like it's just the one level to the next, like, and that's going from low major in the Summit to mid major in the Mountain West, who's around 9th, 10th, whatever. I mean, not that low, but they're just outside the top 6 conferences. This obviously they're probably 7 or so this past year. Although they might have been better than some of the high majors, but you kind of get the point there. Sure. Is the various levels of college basketball, that the competition really is different. And so I think all these guys, the paths they've taken, they've earned this opportunity. And that's what's great about the portal is they weren't high majors coming out according to what coaches saw. And I felt the same way. And watching all these guys, I watched them all come up through high school, and I didn't see, oh yeah, Nebraska Creighton, you guys have to offer this guy out of high school. And we've seen some guys that did get the offers that the coaches took the chance on that didn't finish their careers there. Brady Hyman at Nebraska, Akala Rope at Nebraska, Sharif Mitchell at Creighton now, and obviously the injury played a significant part there for Sharif. But you kind of get the point where they gave him a chance, and they weren't able to kind of grow into the player needed to. It's hard to get on the court early on and play real minutes at the Big Ten or Big East level. Whereas maybe their careers take a different path if they get to play more early on in their career against a lower level of competition to kind of develop.
Jacob, it's something we've talked about with football in recent months. With the transfer portal era here, is the mid-major the new junior college of sorts, with giving guys a place to go and develop, get some years under their belt, some college strength and conditioning, and then transfer up to a high-level program?
Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of, all options are out there now. You got the JUCO, you've got the obviously the low major, you've got the prep school now, the different paths that guys can take to kind of to delay their recruitment and give themselves another chance to show these high majors, hey, I can play for you. And the good thing about obviously people talk about the mid-major just becoming a farm system for the blue bloods and all that. The good thing is it goes back and forth, and there are guys that maybe were highly touted coming out of high school, get a shot at a high major, and just doesn't work out. And then you transfer back down to a lower level, kind of build up your confidence and become a star at that level. So it kind of goes back and forth that way. And I think that's something maybe we don't focus enough on. Yeah, it hurts to develop a guy for 2-3 years and lose him to a blue blood, but that's the name of the game. Like those players have earned that opportunity. And you got to play it the other way too, and take advantage and try to bring some of those other guys back to replace them.
Jacob Padilla, catch his story on the Padding the Stats, HaleVarsity.com. Jacob, safe travels down to Lincoln, bud. Enjoy your weekend, and thanks for giving us a few minutes today.
Talk to you guys next week.
There he is. Good stuff from Jacob Padilla. Follow him on Twitter at @JacobPadilla_. Some NFL thoughts as the schedule released yesterday. Hail Varsity continues.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Big thanks to Jacob Padilla, HaleVarsity.com and magazine. Brady Oltmans coming up in just a bit after 5. Bill Doleman, 20 minutes away. Schmidt, Elijah Herbel.
And Schmidt, did you notice I didn't ask Jacob a single question about the Phoenix Suns? I took the high road.
No, well, he was going to He's
going to jump through the computer screen and attack me if I
He's
did.
going to exit the StreamYard. It's what he was going to do.
That would also work.
I'm just going to kind of keep my mouth shut. You're on a 2 steak and a beer match win streak.
You want to make it 3?
Well, we're going to have to. Gary Barnett's story about his player putting the ball on the ground for an entire season to pay off a $900 gambling debt has inspired me to just keep chasing it.
Yeah, I mean, if you go 3 down, I might start threatening to break your legs.
I'm going to have to call our old friends at out in Hayes Center, Jeff and the Erickson's crew, to get that side of beef. We'd send steaks to Coach Leach from Western Nebraska. The good folks, the Ericksons, would help make that happen. Well, I'm going to have to get Elijah a side of beef the way things are going. Not to brag, but I'm going to for a moment. In the several years you've been here, my record's
pretty good.
Pretty close to being 19 Nebraska 90s-esque against you.
Well,
it's like 60-3.
You're not wrong.
Like
you
that.
Usually have a good strategy of just letting
you
me pick.
Wrong.
As I pick.
It ain't my brains. It's.
And then you just say, okay, I'll go the other way.
Yeah, and that's worked out.
Well, there's a reason I haven't gone off to Wiesen to go join Danny Burke just yet. That's just not my cup of tea. I tend to pick wrong.
Danny's got a yacht. I would imagine he's got a yacht. He's got a lake house. Danny's just kind of killing it because he knows his sports wagering. So NFL, let's talk about the schedule release. We got a kick out of the social media releases with the teams and their schedules and the over-under totals. We spent time on this with college football earlier in the week. Let me ask you this simple question. First and foremost, as you look at the AFC and how it's incredible. I mean, you've got Buffalo and Miami, and the Jets are relevant now with A-Rod there. Cincy's been fun. We love Cincinnati with Burrow and their family, and they're a fun team to watch with Zach Taylor. Baltimore's loaded up again. Jacksonville was a nice story a year ago. The Chiefs are exciting, even for you Denver fans who love to hate Kansas City. Begrudgingly, you have to give them their props about what they are and how smart and great Andy Reid and Mahomes. That team has been great. Get the lead and then go kill the other team's quarterback. It's worked well.
Well, that's the conversation we were having last week on the show of a team or a rival, a player that you dislike, but damn, you respect him. It's Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Mahomes, yeah.
I don't like him. I don't want to watch him. They're going to make me angry, but I have to respect them.
Denver and Sean Payton and let's ride at 8.5 for the over-under. Chargers, everyone's Cinderella pick. It feels like the last 3 years to get to the Super Bowl. Need to figure it out. Your mainstays right now in the NFC, Philly is just not fair with what they have and what they drafted defensively and how well Jalen Hurts has come along, not just as a athlete playing quarterback. He's a playmaker. He's great. He doesn't buy into the old rat poison, and he stays pretty focused in on top of the weapons they have around him. San Francisco, quarterback's the question. Can they get Pretty or Trey Lance to equal what a healthy Jimmy G's done as they sent him off to Vegas? But San Fran right there as kind of your favorite for the NFC at 11.5 wins. Philly right behind him at 10.5. Schedule-wise, I mean, Philly's got a first-place schedule. It's very difficult. You have a very difficult schedule, as you'd presume, with the Chiefs, Super Bowl champs, and then a brutal schedule, a first-place schedule for the first time for Cincinnati. So can they navigate that? You're going to be able to see some pretty high-level games.
Well, I mean, when I look at the Eagles, look at this 4-game stretch that they have at the end of November and into December. You started off, you're in Kansas City on Monday night. This is coming out of your bye week, so I guess that's a positive.
Which is going to be awesome.
But you coming out of your bye week at Kansas City on Monday night. You follow it up the next week. You host the Buffalo Bills. The week after that, you host the San Francisco 49ers. And then to cap it all off, you go on the road to go play the Dallas Cowboys. What a 4-game stretch that is.
But it's awesome.
I mean, and after that, they have a a decent finish to the year with the Giants twice and the Cardinals once, so that's not a terrible stretch. But that 4 games, week 11 through week 14 for the Eagles is just absolutely brutal.
It is, and then, by the way, you get to do it all over again if you're a 1 seed or 2 seed in the playoffs, because a lot of those teams you're trying to knife through, you'll either see in the Super Bowl if you get back there, or Dallas for sure. I mean, the NFC East was a pretty competitive division last year, and Philly was cream of that crop. But you look at some of these win totals, Elijah. Your questions going into 2023, is San Fran okay at quarterback? Can Philly do it again?
Can anybody beat Philly in the NFC is my question.
Does Cincy stay locked in and navigate the schedule? Can they stay okay injury-wise at quarterback? Zach Taylor's been brilliant with how he's built this team. They've hit on some free agents they went and got defensively, and they've got really good at getting after opponents' quarterbacks. Defensively, they've been good. They've been good with a run game, and, of course, they've got difference makers with a quarterback and, of course, Chase at wide receiver.
And Joe Burrow is great. I think the question this year, as you start getting into the time where it's time to pay Joe Burrow his money, you're going to have less cap flexibility. Is Joe Burrow this year ready to take that step into the elite status of quarterbacks? He's really, really good. And then that elite status comes out in the playoffs. Can he put together a full season of elite? I'm talking MVP caliber play.
He's been doing that the last couple of years.
If he can be that guy that's challenging Mahomes and Josh Allen for MVP discussions this year, like seriously challenging those guys.
He's already beat Mahomes.
He's already beat Mahomes. That's fair. Yes, he doesn't have an MVP to his name, though. If he can be in that conversation throughout a full season, if he can keep it through a full 17-game slate, I think that Bengals team is your team to beat in the AFC.
They could be. And my question is this, Buffalo, man, they were so close with the greatest non-defensive game ever, where them and Kansas City just traded points the last 90 seconds. Has Buffalo's window closed? You've got injuries that have continued to be nagging with Josh Allen. He's awesome. Great ball player. Love what they have defensively. Like their weapons offensively. They're your favorite in the AFC East, but Miami's right there. They've been better than expected. And then the Jets kind of jump up with this 1 year wonder, maybe 2 with A-Rod. I'm just wondering about Buffalo. I think they can maintain and be at least a divisional playoff appearance football team, but can they get over the hump this year and get to a Super Bowl, because they were everyone's darling a year ago, and they had to really taste some bad medicine there, and they just got flat out owned in the snow by Cincinnati.
We're going to have to take a break here, but I'd like to get into this after the break. We need to pick a dark horse team from each conference that we like, because the Eagles last year were a lot of people's dark horses. Pays off.
People weren't sure if they were ready.
Yes, but they were a dark horse pick. I'd like to get our dark horse picks coming up after the break, Schmidt, if we can.
Cool. No, we'll get there. We'll wind down hour 1. Hail Varsity continues. You can dial us up at 489-1240. Emails we'll get to Chris at hailvarsity.com. The stream open for you as well, Hail Varsity YouTube channel.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. I'm just kind of peering to my right, and Jeff Moats, News and Sports Director here in Lincoln at KFOR. Someone get that man a Coors. I mean, he has been just crushing severe weather, monitoring there for your safety. A reminder to get buckled up, hands on the wheel, eyes and mind straight ahead. The driver has one job, that's to drive. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, 489-1240, number to dial up and get in as we're talking NFL over-unders here. At the schedule release, you needed to make a point about dark horses, Elijah Herbel. Are you going to just pull the trigger and jump into the deep end of the pool with your Denver Broncos?
Oh, no.
No?
No.
Well, that's where you were going with, well, watch out for Peyton and Russell. Denver's had a good defense. They've got some options on offense. They just need their quarterback to not suck.
Well, yeah, here's the thing is I was talking with my roommate Alex last night, big Packers fan, and the Packers are coming to Denver this year in October. It's the day after the Northwestern game, so we were trying to figure out some logistics with, can we make it to Denver? Can we do that? We have
Take the train overnight.
Well, we're thinking if there's a train Saturday night, that would be our plan. We can sleep on the couch at my grandmother's house. She actually has some spare beds that we could use, so we had that option, then do the train back to Lincoln. Hopefully then to not miss our reaction show on Monday following the Nebraska-Northwestern game. We'll see if we can make it happen. But he brought up the point of, well, it should actually be an evenly matched game. And I said, you guys don't even have a quarterback next year. And he goes,
neither do you. Huh?
Yeah, and that's when it hit me. I was like, yeah, I can't pick Denver as a dark horse team. I'm not going to be the biggest idiot in the world whenever the Broncos go 4-13 again. We're not going to do that. But whenever I look at dark horse teams, I think there's a couple teams that I think could be surprising some people, and everyone's been talking about the New York Jets in the NFC. How about the New York Giants?
Yeah,
that was Brian Dable's first year last year.
No, he's good.
That team looked night and day different. They had a mentality.
He's good. The mentality is very real. I really like Detroit, and I know they're kind of a hot pick right now. They're fun. Their culture is big time. I mean, they finally got the head coach hire right, and they just buy in. They're just tough. They're talented. They've been really good with undrafted free agents. And they've got guys that they're a bargain. They're hungry. They're talented.
I mean, they picked their first overall pick. At 18, they picked a guy that fits their system perfectly, Jack Campbell from Iowa. What a perfect draft pick for Dan Campbell.
You know, linebacker Jack is really good from the college level. He's a total throwback up the alley of this new Detroit football team.
My question with the
Lions,
Lions,
got rid of Okudah, who we all loved coming out of Ohio State.
That never quite flipped the switch in the NFL.
No, he's been dinged.
My question with them, it's still the quarterback position. Jared Goff, is he going to be that guy, or are you going to have to wait for him and Hooker?
He got hot, and by the way, you've got Hooker waiting in the wings. Goff's gone to a Super Bowl. He's talented enough. He just needed some help, and he got some help. The team I'd circle, and it might be some recency. We're going to get a standing O here from the Jayville fans that are in the.
I was going to go with Jacksonville too.
What they did last year. I mean, Trevor Lawrence clearly got thrown into it, struggled his rookie year, but the moment wasn't too big for him last year. I know they put some wins together. They're pretty balanced. He's able to do everything the offense has asked of him.
In the loaded wide receiver room with the addition of Calvin Ridley.
Again, coaching change made all the difference.
Yeah, you also have another year of Christian Kirk. That Jaguars passing attack could be dangerous.
They're fun. And
Travis Etienne looked good at running back last year.
Sunshine was just slinging it all over. Bill Doleman's on the way.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Hour 2 is here at Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports. The Professor Bill Doleman joins us at Bill Doleman on Twitter. And Doleman is still commandeered to his office as he is joining us via the stream, Hail Varsity YouTube, or Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Billy D, how things shaking, man? Finals week's done, correct?
No. Finals week is next week, and I'm in the office doing what I can to develop the next generation of sports writers and sportscasters. And like you had said, you're trying to find somebody to be a new producer for your show. So I'm doing everything I can to find you a new sidekick.
What?
Or was I supposed to say that out loud?
Yeah, I don't remember saying that before you cut power.
My bad.
Good one.
Let's start again.
Wrong show.
Well, let's talk about the other elephant in the room, the other producer of this show. If finals week is next week, I know the man's in Chicago right now. Bill, what the hell's going on there?
Yeah, let him out. He came in. It was just kind of a tearful conversation.
Anyway,
wanted to go home and call the dogs against the dogs, and so yeah, he cut out. But all is forgiven for now.
Well, Connor Clark, part of your Salt Dogs broadcast.
Just
Michael
wait.
Dixon,
Yeah.
6 o'clock.
Just wait until Connor tries to walk across the stage at graduation and Bill Doleman says, no, he missed my final actually back in 2013. He's not going to be able to walk today.
Well, I swear to you, I didn't know if I passed my Spanish final when I went to go get my diploma.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I got my Spanish online. So the last semester I was taking Spanish, but then I did the math on my grades. I'm like, no matter what happens on the final, I'm still going to be guaranteed to be. So I just didn't show up for my final, and I still graduated just fine. So,
well, some of us weren't on academic scholarships because, well, we weren't. Bill, how about you?
I was worried about graduating because of unpaid parking tickets. There was a time when I got, parked in one of the stalls outside the stadium, and I got like 3 or 4 parking tickets for the same violation. And I wrote a very extensive letter claiming double jeopardy, and it violated my constitutional rights against double jeopardy for being tried and convicted for the same offense more than once. And I won my appeal.
No
and I got my diploma. Might have been the best thing I ever wrote the entire time I was in college.
I wrote 99-cent checks with a message to the parking Nazis in the memo box, and they ended up towing me. True story.
How much were parking tickets back then?
$5.
Oh, that's craziness.
I wanted to just walk in with change.
See, they're $25 now, so if you walked in with a wheelbarrow of change, I don't think they'd really be that appreciative.
We love you, parking enforcement, UNL. Just kidding. Bill, a lot of Nebraska topics as we get closer to summertime and things that are pretty interesting. We touched on this earlier in the week. I wanted to get your take. This is from Fox, all-time favorite player from your rival team. And we talked about this with Mitch Sherman, and I kind of circled Ricky Williams. This is before I put the old headset on. So was still the Nebraska fan in my third junior year or sophomore year, whatever it was. And Ricky went for, 200 and snapped the win streak. And you got to begrudgingly say, wow, that was a ball game for the guy. Darian Hagan was magic to watch. He should have been wearing red except for the, son, the gang take from Bill McCartney that ruined the recruiting chances of Nebraska. So those were a couple of guys that came to my mind. Keith Jackson. How about you? You love your Nebraska football history. Is there a guy that, man, you kind of love to not like, but man, you wished he was on Nebraska's team?
No.
Next question.
I'm a big fan of Kelly Phelps.
Okay.
Oklahoma Sooner, who got blasted on that kickoff return in 1978.
Tom Rood.
I like seeing that play over and over again by John Rood. Big fan of his. Big fan of Joe Wiley, who is famous in Nebraska lore for punting the football to Johnny Rodgers in the 71 game of the century. Big fan of that. Let's see. I suppose if I had to choose one, maybe Barry Sanders.
Barry was good.
Yeah, Barry Sanders was good, and he was a respectful player. Was that way in the NFL as well. But watching him was pretty spectacular. Coy Detmer. Love watching the highlights of the 92 Nebraska-Colorado game over and over again and watch him get thrown around like a rag doll. That was kind of fun. I guess that's more than the Phelps and Wiley classification. But probably Barry Sanders and, a couple of those Oklahoma quarterbacks back in the day, for Thomas Lott and Jamel Holloway. And, the Oklahoma rivalry was pretty special. Marcus Dupree, that 1 year, as a running back was probably had he stayed around and there not been a USFL trip and all that, you'd probably be talking about Marcus Dupree in the same classification as, Bo Jackson and Herschel Walker and
Sure.
Mike Rozier, Lawrence Phillips. He was good. But Barry Sanders maybe would probably be the one that would stand out.
Do you have any, since Nebraska's joined the Big Ten, whether it be Iowa or Wisconsin, even Ohio State, Michigan, any guys from those teams that you respected and enjoyed watching them, even though Nebraska's been on the losing end for the last couple of years?
Yeah, that is a no. That's a no. Yeah.
It's
I'm can't play that game too much. But, you don't feel. Look, in Nebraska, it has to be in the Big Ten. I've said it from the day one, but there's just not that connection of the players. It's such a big conference. Back in the day, you knew when Nebraska was in the Big 8 and even in the Big 12, players were around for a long time, and you knew who was coming up, and you paid a lot more attention to it. I think we're still getting to know, the players on those teams.
Bill Doleman's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, at Bill Doleman on Twitter. And Bill, a thought from you with a report from Brett McMurphy. You like to play the game of AD, and I mean that as respectfully, with conference realignment and TV, and I mean, you know it so well. The Big Ten is strongly considering removing its requirement for league teams to play Power 5 non-conference teams annually as soon as 2024. Do you like that? I know SC and UCLA are moving into the neighborhood, but the non-conference setup Nebraska has this decade, there's some fun matchups. I know that the divisions will probably go goodbye, and you'll have a pretty rigorous schedule. You're going to be able to lose multiple games and still get in the playoff. I'd still like to see Nebraska keep scheduling either aggressively or in a familiar sense with the non-conference options.
It's gonna, it's gonna be dictated by television, and there are going to be very, very few teams that are going to have those magical seasons like, Alabama and Georgia have had in, the last couple of years, and going 15-0 or 14-1 to win national titles. It's going to be much more like the NFL, where you're going to have those marquee matchups in the non-conference season that TV is going to dictate. And it's going to be, a lot of money, and you're not going to want, schools necessarily to start paying the welfare check, if you will, to the schools like they have in the past. Sure, Alabama's going to play, somebody right before they play Auburn, some directional hyphenated school. That's just the way they do it. Right. But and that does support those programs. I can remember years ago, Nebraska played Pacific, and I don't remember what Pacific got out of the game. Several $100,000 for the time. Now it's like $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. It was like $400,000 or $500,000. Gave the check to Pacific coming in here to support their football program. They dropped football, right, the very next year. So I think that it's all going to be dictated by TV, and I think that's going to, whatever McMurphy says, with the Big Ten and the new commissioner Padilla coming in, I think that he's going to have a large say in how. He's not going to have a say in how teams schedule, but there's going to be a strong inference as to what we need to make sure our TV partners are happy.
Well, Bill, I look at Bo Pelini's tenure at Nebraska and who he started out with in his non-conference slate, and I compare it to Matt Rule's. Go back to 2008. Bo Pelini's first 3 games: Western Michigan, a blowout victory; San Jose State, a blowout victory; and then New Mexico State, another blowout victory, before you have your first loss of the Bo Pelini era to Virginia Tech at home, 35-30. Compare that to Matt Rule. You're starting off with Minnesota in Colorado, no warm-up games, even despite the fact that it's your first year in charge.
Remember back in the old Big 8 days, there was a scheduling philosophy that you had one marquee matchup, then you had 2 decent teams, and then you had the paycheck game for the team coming in, and then you got into conference schedule. You didn't play conference games really in September. It was all warming up to get ready for conference play, and now you've got Nebraska out of the gate playing Minnesota. That was unheard of, for 50 years. And now it's just part of the norm as to what's going to, work schedule-wise for TV, and to make sure you get a balance of home and away games. But I think all of that's predicated on what's going to pay the bills for the Big Ten Network, for Fox, for now CBS, and for NBC. When can they get those teams on, and who can we get them to play, and get them to play on the right date for the schedule?
Well, Bill, it's funny you mentioned the Big 8 days, because I was actually looking into this a couple days ago. Nebraska, well ahead of its time in terms of scheduling conference foes. In 1983, they played 3 conference foes to start off the season in Penn State, Minnesota, and UCLA. How about that?
Well done.
Yeah, right.
Well
there was
done.
a precursor.
Bill, what are 2 key off-season questions you have? What are 2 keys for Nebraska this offseason?
Well, that's a really good question. I think for one is making sure that you are organized for recruiting. And I'm not a big fan with recruiting, but making sure that everything, the table is set for 2024. And I know it's going to be a busy summer for Rule with all of the camps that they have and everybody that that they're wanting to do with getting players in official visits. And what is it now? It's unlimited visits. Is that right?
Believe so.
Yeah. So, the organization of that staff to make sure that that's all in place for their first, real summer here, I think that's critical. In addition to getting everybody prepared and what they need to do. The other thing is, what kind of accountability, and this really isn't on Rule, but it's the accountability that the players have with each other. Do they have that mindset that when that stadium is unlocked for us to be in there to do our 7-on-7 drills and to work out together? I wouldn't expect it to be like it was back in, the mid 90s when, I've told the story many times. I would go down there and get interviews for KFAB and there'd be 100+ players in the middle of July working out. Nobody's around. And then watching them keep themselves accountable, that was all on the players. They did what they absolutely had to do to be ready to erase the memory of 18-16 that lost to Florida State in the Orange Bowl. And they did so for 4 years. So it's not, to me, it's not really on Rule, but on these players that we don't want to wait for year 2 of the Rule era. Well, and that's come up a couple of times this week in stories. Yeah, we didn't have a lot of success in year 1 at Temple and year 1 at Baylor, but I think these guys are hungry. I think that this Nebraska football team has to take it upon itself to prove that and not put it on Rule to be a developmental coach that by year 2 of 3, things are going to happen. Players have to make it happen now.
I mean, Bill, do you see this similar to how Nebraska could be under Bo Pelini whenever that year of 2007, not a great year, but there was some talent left over for Bo Pelini, some guys that were ready to go in terms of being day 1 starters for Bo Pelini, and you saw how quick the turnaround was, started off with a 9-win season, including the bowl game. Do you see that as being potential next season, or do you think Matt Rule finds himself in a deeper hole than Bo Pelini?
No, I don't. I think the talent is there, and I do think the want-to is there with this football team. You just got the sense, in watching them in spring ball, the way they conducted their business, the way they talked, look, I'm around some guys here at the college too. You can just tell that there's something different about Nebraska football, that these guys are excited to play for this staff. And, I would think that the cupboard is not bare of talent. They're not coming off of just a school that has zero history in football in Temple. They're not Baylor coming off of, a just tremendous scandal, that has been around that program, not just in football when Art Briles was there, but you go back to, what they came out of when Dave Bliss resigned as the basketball coach and Scott Drew took over. There's a culture of, some really seedy stuff that Baylor has had to try and resurrect from. And, Rule helped do that on the football field after, post Art Briles. Nebraska's just had some, bad success with game planning. They've had some bad luck, all the 1-loss games that they've suffered through. I think that there are players here, and I think that there's the talent here to make it change pretty quickly. Is it going to be a 9-win bowl team? No. I think it's going to be a 10-win bowl team. There you go. I said it.
Bill Doleman throwing the gauntlet down. He says 10.
I think it's a bowl. This is, look, you look
Screw
at
your
bowl
6
games.
DraftKings. Bill Doleman says, give me a 10. There you go.
Look at the teams that play in bowl games.
I know.
Come on.
Detroit, December 19th. How about it? Bill.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's sure those are conference ties and TV contracts, but come on. This is a bowl program.
God love you. Bill, we'll get caught up next week, buddy. Thanks for the time.
And let me know if you find a new producer.
Go Big Red.
It's Bill Doleman. Brady Oltmans on the way.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Good stuff from Bill Doleman. We say hi to Brady Oltmans, HailVarsity.com and magazine, podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, where you can find us. Of course, you can find Brady and his podcast. Brady, let's plug here, buddy. Tell folks about your podcast and how awesome it is, Unique Spin.
Yeah, Eric Francis, staff photographer for Hail Varsity, and myself co-host the Eye Test that is available on wherever you get your podcasts. Most recently, we sat down with the good doctor and talked about culture, talked about how you build a team, and him kind of coming at Nebraska a little bit different, being raised outside in Michigan, but still, going through the Lincoln school system and playing. Eric is an Omaha guy. I'm a South Central Nebraska, rural Nebraska guy. And we kind of talk about all that, but we've also had Dave Remington on talking about things associated with football, but a little bit bigger. So it's usually a fun time. We try to keep it spicy.
How many beer analogies did Dr. Rob make when talking about culture?
How many beers did he have?
It was a dry office at that time.
Wrong answer.
Nobody asked me. But I'm sure if he comes on for a second time, we'll have to make an adjustment.
Dr. Rob Zadisk is one of our favorites. We love him. He was awesome at the Pipeline event up at the Hail Varsity Club. So reaction here to Teddy Rezac, Westside stud ball player, off to Notre Dame. Nebraska offered him yesterday. He committed today.
Yeah, it's one I talked with a couple of people over at Westside, and it was like, what took Nebraska so long to offer? And nobody really seems to have like a solid answer. I can tell you firsthand, it's not for a lack of evaluation. I mean, either at the chamber event or in the Q&A that we had, the Hail Varsity Q&A we had with Matt Rule for our yearbook coming up this summer, he said that he looks over tape every day. I mean, like literally every day, either transfers or high school recruits. He's studying tape. And obviously they've offered several kids out of Westside, both in the 2023 class and then future. So they watched his tape. They knew. I'm not sure what took them so long there, but I can tell you that the Rezac family, they got swept away on their visit to Notre Dame. I mean, they loved the place. It was the Marcus Freeman and his coaching staff made them feel like a priority. They are a Catholic family, for whatever that's worth. I think that to some point that means something to anybody who's Catholic. Notre Dame is going to mean something to that extent. But they felt at home, and then it's one of those things where he sat on it for about 2 weeks and then decided to make the commitment. So you're not going to get everybody for in-state as Nebraska, but he's one of those kids that could. He's just a quality athlete, and not to say that Nebraska's going to stop recruiting him, because this coaching staff will make sure that they're going to test every syllable and commitment right up until signing day. But it's certainly one that, props to Teddy for going to Notre Dame. That's a really good gift for the Irish.
Brady, from a public relations point of view, how the people of Nebraska view this football program, if there's a kid within the state's borders that these coaches don't quite think is a fit for whatever reason, they're not all that interested in a kid from Nebraska, is it a better look PR-wise to give them a late offer whenever they're going somewhere else, or is it a better PR move just not offer them at all and say, you know what, this guy just wasn't a priority for us? It's tough with in-state kids whenever you want to prioritize in-state recruiting. It's just a fact that not everyone in-state is going to be a fit with what you're doing and what you have within your program. So what's the better PR move there? And I'm not saying that this was just a PR move on Nebraska's part to offer Rezac, but with such a late offer, it does raise some questions in your head about what was Nebraska doing with that late offer whenever you already knew Notre Dame, once that offer happened, that was a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, because keep in mind, recruiting is such an evolving thing. I mean, there's a potential where Nebraska had maybe 4 or 5, hypothetically speaking, I can't speak for this as truth, but 4 or 5 like athletes on their recruiting radar, and then a couple of them take commitments elsewhere, go off the board. You'd rather have, a kid that you evaluate and is good in Teddy. And then when you see Notre Dame come in with that offer, you want to make sure that you get your horse in that race in case that, the other athletes that you have maybe ranked ahead of him, or at least prioritized differently. If they go off the board with commitments, you feel a little bit better maybe flipping a commitment for an in-state kid than you do elsewhere. But I also think that a certain point of this is an underlining, and keep in mind, Nebraska is kind of now in sort of a golden age of in-state recruits. I mean, you've got a lot of Power 5 kids going within this last 4-year recruiting cycle stretch. You've got the most Power 5 kids going. Tell me how Nebraska's win-loss record went over the last 4 years. I mean, the romanticism of Nebraska means a lot of something. People who grew up here want to play football know how much it means. but there's some legitimacy to show the wins, show that you're going to be a winning program. There's a reason why Matt Rule loves the recruits who buy in before proof, is out there so much. He's talked about that, is because he loves those kids that buy in when there's no evidence, on the field to support that yet. Wait until they play a complete game in an actual competitive game. But man, I mean, winning some games would mean a whole lot to Nebraska in the recruiting front at this point.
We talked about it in segment 1, where relevancy is very real, and Nebraska still is a brand for millions to watch a helmet game on TV. But it's been a long, long time since an 8-year-old or a 12-year-old that turned into a 17-year-old senior-to-be saw Nebraska killing folks on the football field. And there are other options, like Oregon. There are other options like Missouri. And you've got a priority staff here that is going to scour the state and give you the look. But they haven't had the opportunity yet to prove the work or the words on the field.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Teddy was hardly in middle school the last time Nebraska played for a bowl game. You know what I mean? Like, let's be honest here. Let's lay out exactly how realistic and how maybe some would say dire the situation has been for Nebraska in terms of win-loss. You're recruiting kids who weren't alive the last time Nebraska played for a national championship. You know what I mean? You're recruiting kids who may not have even gotten out of two-hand touch or flag football the last time that they played for a conference championship. I mean, that's the situation that you're dealing with here. Those who buy in, or at least enough to the coaching staff to want to come in to visit Lincoln, they see the trophies, they see the history, they see the pride and the pageantry and everything to get in. But it's a hurdle that is increasingly large until the wins start showing up again to get top quality national recruits in.
Brady Oltmans is with us here at Hail Varsity Radio. And Brady, whenever you look at just the health of this class of 2024 right now, we talked about this with Evan Bland a little bit earlier this week. What is the health of this current recruiting class as Nebraska enters some crucial summer months as you try to build the class? What would you assess it at? Maybe let's do a letter grade from A to F. Where would you assess where Nebraska's class is currently at compared to where you'd want it to be entering middle of May?
I'd say a C plus, maybe, or solid C. I just think that at this point you'd like to have, if I'm sure the coaching staff feels this way, you'd feel better if they had a couple of good, solid, big bodies in there, going into the summer. I'm guessing that their aim is to get maybe 2 or 3, potentially 4 kids in after camp season, June time around. And then I also know that, Matt Rule and his staff they want to see some of these kids in the fall. They want to see them play. They're holding out on some offers for 2024 and 25 beyond kids until they see them actually play football. Because again, keep in mind, with the wins and losses, you've had coaching turnover and these guys haven't even watched, an actual in-state competitive game. So I think it's just the pure numbers. The recruits that they have signed on now, don't get me wrong. I mean, those are guys that the coaching staff are really happy that they have in, but just the numbers right now aren't probably where you'd want them to be. So you got to beef that up a little bit. And I'm guessing that they're going to try to aim to do that through camp season into June.
Brady, let's talk real quick here. Carter Nelson, Georgia, early June, Notre Dame, mid-June. Where do you believe things stand with Nebraska and Nelson?
I think Nebraska's in good standing. Okay. I mean, obviously he is an exceptional athlete. He's going to compete in 3 events at state track next weekend. They stopped him in the high jump just at the automatic qualifying mark. I believe that was the first meet that he performed high jump at this year. They just didn't want to push him. They wanted to make sure, hit that qualifying mark, save him until state. Mm-hmm. It's not confirmed, but a part of me thinks that Nebraska would try to get a push in for that last June weekend, June 23rd.
That is being built up, that Rule talked about at the chamber.
Yeah, because that's their priority weekend. They've already got Hall and McMorris from Bellevue West coming in to visit for that weekend. So I think that could be another big priority weekend. There's, obviously the rumor mill is swirling that's a Rayola visit weekend as well.
I was going to say, door's not shut yet, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I'll put it this way. It was a lot like my apartment this morning. The door was at least propped open a little.
Hold on.
Wait, this sounds like a hell of a story.
Did Archie just fullback it through, or what happened?
Look, you still have the PlayStation 5, so I don't think it was robbers.
No. I just it was a nice enough. I had a nice little breeze coming in, so I propped open my little patio door thing just out, right out in front of my building. Just propped up the patio door and kicked it outside for a little bit and did a little bit of reading. Archie sat next to me, and we just kind of left the door open for a little bit.
All right.
Okay, that's less concerning.
I was thinking
than,
front door.
But yeah, that's
guys. Right,
like if you wake up and your front door is wide open, like call the police immediately,
or sick Archie on him.
Yeah, I mean, he would let me know.
Is he with you now?
He is. He's not very happy that I'm talking
to
somebody.
Can you hold him up for the StreamYard folks?
Hold him up.
He's right now just right by the door, kind of pouting and making his little hump noises about, Dad, why are you making me wait for attention now?
That's funny. Well, Saturday mornings, Gertie the German Shepherd always jumps in my lap when we're on screen.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to time it where Gertie and Archie can compare ears.
Well, I'm sure he wouldn't know what to think about that.
Yeah.
Brady, before we get you out of here, about a minute left. Can you rank for me the top recruits that Nebraska, at least at the top of their big board as we enter summer? Who are the big names that we're going to be hearing a lot about this summer because Nebraska coaches are all over them?
Oh, man. Well, Will Nweri from Lee Summit North is a big one. I'm not sure if he'll come. I'd imagine they'd get him in for a summer visit because he included Nebraska on his finalist list. Kawan Lacey from Lancaster, Texas. I mean, he's a 3-star, but there's a reason why Alabama offered him. All right, let's be real. He's probably gonna up to 4 here in the next updated cycle. And then, Carter Nelson's another big one. If they can get Rayola in, obviously that's a big one. They've been hitting around the country hard, but I'd imagine them making a big push into Texas, especially since their 2 satellite camps this summer are going to be in Texas. One down in right outside of Temple, and then the other one in Houston. So
Houston could be a gold mine for Nebraska with their connections there. Brady Oltmans with us, HailVarsity.com and magazine at Brady Oltmans on Twitter. Brady, have yourself a weekend. Thanks for jumping on with us today.
Always appreciate it, guys.
I appreciate you. Good stuff. We'll hit the sports book. VSiN Sports Network's Danny Burke on the way.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time. Good stuff from Brady Oltmans and, yes, Bill Doleman this second hour. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Weekend edition tomorrow. We'll stream it for you, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. And, yes, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. Check it out, 7:30 to about 9 or so. Myself, Mark Cranack, Elijah Herbel. Hope you check that out. There's plenty to get into here this part of May. We say hi to Danny Burke. VSiN Sports Network at Danny Burke 5. On Twitter's where you find him. Danny, a lot going on here with the NBA and NHL. And also some real early over-unders that are out in the college football world. How you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. Yeah, I was just talking with Elijah saying I think I've fully committed to being a Team Nuggets now. Probably the last team remaining that seems enjoyable to root for throughout this postseason. And it doesn't hurt having a little bit of a futures price on them. I know my son's one went down, but we still got the Nuggets to hang on to. So now we are rooting for the Mile High City in the NBA now. So who would have thunk it, huh? Can't complain.
Well, get this, Danny. Schmittian here, he's a Nuggets hater. He's a Jokic hater.
No.
You picked the Suns last night.
I just thought they'd bounce back. It was a home game. I was wrong. It's okay.
Hater.
No. I thought with Chris Paul watching, that gave him a better shot. My apologies.
That's a good
I was
point.
wrong. My brother growing up liked the Nuggets. This was the Mutombo era.
Mm-hmm.
And the Jason Stith, I think, was the point guard, and Robert Pack. I mean, those Nugget teams, the Nugget team that knocked off Seattle and Sean Kemp and Gary Payton before you were born.
Get this, Nuggets are an old franchise. It's pretty much consensus among Nuggets fans. Nikola Jokic is already the greatest Nugget of all time. It's really not close.
It's him and Michael Adams and Doug Moe. I mean, those are your 3 options.
Only thing he needs to cap it off in terms of
Rodney Rogers is pretty sweet, too.
Get himself an NBA ring this year, an NBA title. you're a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion. 2 MVPs and a finals appearance with the dominating performances that you've had over the past couple years. That's just my opinion, but
no, he's good.
We're witnessing greatness.
No, he's awesome. Daddy, NBA tonight, where you leaning here? Heat, Knicks. Also, does Golden State extend it?
So for the first game tonight, it's hard not to look the direction toward Miami, but this market really already seems played out in terms of where this number's moved to. So, it's always kind of like seeming like I'm beating a dead horse here, but now that the number's moved, I feel like you just wait in-game for the better spot on Miami. I mean, truly, it's kind of just the best way to go about it when you got kind of a middling favorite in that 4 to 7-point range. The number's already moved in their favor, and realistically, it's an elimination game, right? So you're going to get a closely played performance you would expect at least out of this Knicks team despite their road struggles. So that's what I think will present the better opportunity with the Heat. Now, if you don't want to wait and lay with Miami, then yes, I would still lean with betting them pre-flop right now. I mean, this team clearly has just dominated at home. They're the better coached team at this point, and the will and tenacity of this roster is nothing short of amazing in what they've been able to accomplish throughout this postseason. But a couple bets that I have looked at and put a little bit on revolve around the player props. Julius Randle, under 23.5 points. Now, this has also been hit a little bit in the market. I'd still look at the under 22.5, but if they're making you lay more than like minus 115, I don't know how in love with it I'd be at that point, knowing that you could have got 23.5 and that it's really been steamed down. But Randall has struggled down the road in this series. A majority of his shots are getting taken beyond the arc. And look, we know in general how strong this Miami defense can be. They've been particularly well at defending the three-point ball, and Randall, again, has struggled in these particular situations, yet the market keeps deeming him as being a guy who's going to score 24-plus points, and I just don't think that's going to be the case. So I went under on Randall, and then Max Strus, there's some 11.5s out there. I would play him over up to 12.5. I believe he's gone over this market every game except for one. He has been the most efficient scorer in terms of just quality shot attempts and based on his usage throughout the Miami Heat. He's come up in clutch moments, and again, a guy who takes a lot of three-point shots, so he's really making the most of it when he does take his shot opportunities. And against this Knicks defense, he's really had no problem making the most of it. And again, a spot where the number, in my mind, hasn't adjusted too much. So I think you can play Strus over his points prop up to 12.5, and then Randall under to as low as 22.5, but don't weigh too much on that under juice. And as for the later game tonight, and I haven't checked for a little bit, but look, if Andrew Wiggins is not going to be playing and Anthony Davis is still fine to play, it's hard to imagine that all of a sudden the road woes for the Golden State Warriors just get solved. I'd rather see Golden State go through, I guess. I don't know why, objectively speaking, or it's not even objective, I guess. The Bulls fan in me just always is rooting against LeBron James. But honestly, guys, if that's the case, the Lakers are going to find a way. But if Wiggins is playing, the Warriors, it's hard to envision this thing not going to a Game 7. So keep monitoring the injury report. Otherwise, maybe expect a lower-scoring game. I know the total's moved down about 3 points, but if it's fast-paced immediately and you already see this total bump up, envision that thing to slow down. Again, these elimination games get played tighter, the pressure amount's higher, so usually adds to lower scoring and more quality shot attempts.
Have you cleaned up at all going to the NHL on the Panthers' hot streak?
So my co-host for the podcast has been betting them left and right. I've been doing a tremendous job. What I did,
he's been buying dinner.
You're right. Yeah, exactly. 2 games ago, I live bet the Panthers when they were down. I guess it was Game 2. I want to say when they were down 1-0. Samsonov got injured for the Maple Leafs, and you thought, all right, well, not only is Florida good enough to come back, but their price is a lot better, down 1-0 early. And the starting goalie just got taken out for the Maple Leafs. So I took a stab at that and was lucky to come through. And then the last game, I took Maple Leafs team total under 3.5 because Sergei Bobrovsky has been an absolute stud for the Panthers as of late and finally playing like the goalie they paid him to on a massive contract a couple of years ago. And he has limited the Maple Leafs to 2 goals every game. For this one, guys, I ended up staying away just because I don't know what would be more Maple Leafs to, not get swept and then immediately lose at home, or to drag this series out to 7 games and then lose. So that's why I'm kind of just standing pat in that game tonight.
Danny, last thought here, probably about a minute left. Nebraska's win total earlier this week set at 6 by DraftKings. You going over or under on 6 wins for Nebraska next year?
Ooh, again, I got to look a little bit deeper into the schedule, but the fact that they're giving you the flat 6, look, a lot of it revolves around the quarterback situation, and obviously that's a tad bit more clear, but that doesn't mean I'm certain on the ability. I think it'd have to be a strong, well, maybe not even strong, but just a slight lean to the over again, because it's at a flat 6, because now we're assuming you're actually going to get a competent coaching staff who can win those close games. So because it's at the flat 6, got to lean slightly over.
And Danny, I will let you know some of the sports books have raised it to 6.5 with juice on the under, so...
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, at that point, you may be a little bit more hesitant. But, yeah, if it's at 6, don't mind taking advantage of it before they all move to 6 in the hook.
Danny, are you going to the bleachers this weekend or no?
I think I'm taking off this weekend. We got a golf outing tomorrow that we're going to be hitting a little bit outside the city, hopefully avoiding the rain. And then, celebrating with Mom on Sunday. So looking forward to that. And hopefully she lets me get some TV time to sweat out the postseason.
Danny, you're telling me you're not going to go check out the Salt Dogs while they're in town?
I might have to, pay homage to the old squad, the Lincoln Salt Dogs. Then it's a conflict of interest. Do I root for them or do I root for the Chicago Dogs? So
I love
that
it.
puts me in a tough position.
At Danny Burke 5, find him on VEASAN all weekend long. VEASAN Sports Network, proud of Chicago. Danny, take care, bud.
Yeah, you got it, guys. Enjoy the weekend.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Stephen, right on the money. Forgot Dan Issel. Didn't mean to forget Dan Issel. Good old ABA, baby.
Alex English as well is another name.
Yeah, I said Alex English.
Did you say Alex English? Okay.
Yep.
Chris Marlowe.
Tumbo is my favorite.
Scott Hastings. He's their color commentary guy now. I don't think he was more than a role player for the Nuggets.
No, I mean the Robert Pack, Rodney Rogers, Sharif, the old Chris Jackson. I forget his Muslim name.
Ralph.
Abdul Raif.
Yeah, there was a good HBO documentary on him.
Yeah, he was awesome, and I loved watching him at LSU. Then he had Tourette's, where he had the tics with Tourette's, and he still just went off. I mean, went off from 3. So Denver was fun. I've never made it to a Nuggets game. I think my brother's gone or has wanted to go. So good on you for being a Nugs fan. I mean, you're just, and it's family because you've been brought into the Denver Mafia. That's just your dad's teams, and good on you. But the old ABA, I think Dr. J's first half court, or I should say first free throw line dunk, came in the ABA All-Star game in '76
in Denver.
Yeah, in Denver. Yeah. So no, I get it.
Well, we'll see. I'm going to be in Denver next weekend for my cousin's graduation. We're short on time. We drive out Saturday morning. Her graduation is Saturday night, and then we drive back on Sunday. So I'm trying to figure out if it'd be a bad look if the Nuggets are in town that weekend to, skip out on some family time and go catch the Nuggets. I think it would be a very bad look for me, but then I have to wait.
I think you have to take the graduate with you.
She's not a big Nuggets fan.
It gets you out.
It's the Western Conference Finals. Tickets are going to be so expensive. This is a solo ticket for me in the lower bowl.
I remember a year ago we were out there in June for the Abs, and I thought better of dropping whatever it would have cost me to get in the building. Mm-hmm. We went to the Padres-Rockies game instead, and the whole world's in downtown Denver, Lodo. I shot you pictures of that. That'd be fun. Denver football's a party. I remember being out with my grandparents for their 50th or 60th wedding anniversary in western Nebraska over Thanksgiving. We were celebrating it. This was when Erin was pregnant with Carson. Well, my dad's like, boys, we're going to Boulder. It's like, Dad, you hate Colorado. It's like, yep, we're going to Boulder. So we snuck out there. That was Barney's final game against Nebraska, where all of the student section got ejected for throwing plastic bottles. So it was a balmy 65 degrees. So no, man, I mean, going out to Denver, I want to take a train overnight and just get dropped off in the Lodo, crash somewhere than be within walking distance to all these ball games.
Well, I'm telling you, without a shadow of doubt, if the Nuggets win the title this year, which is a long way off to even talk about.
Going to the parade?
I'm going to the parade. I'm going to take the train to Denver. I'm going to take a day off work. I'm going to the parade. I'm just letting you know right now.
No, you do it, man.
There's no way I'm missing that.
And just don't let the dogs sniff your vehicle on the way back.
That's why you take the train.
Well, is there a customs check?
I don't know.
Do you get patted down? These are medicinal. What did you see?
Oh, no. Our commercial breaks just look a little different than usual with some timing things. I'll get it figured out. That's why I'm a pro, so they pay me the big bucks.
You're good. Tomorrow, come find us. Weekend edition, 7:30 tomorrow morning. Hail Varsity YouTube channel and the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt. Thanks for spending time. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you mañana with Hail Varsity.